Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today we're talking about Bach's Goldberg Variations. What you say? We already just talked about Bach's Goldberg Variations. Well, we did, but if you were looking carefully, you will note that in that video I said Goldberg Variations for piano, and now we're talking about harpsichord, the original one. And I really believe, quite frankly, that you got to have both. Some people feel very, very strongly about one or the other. And of course, it's been arranged for string trio or kazoo choir or all kinds of other things too, because Bach's music is like that. Bach can be played right side up, upside down, sideways, backwards, underwater, in outer space, for any arrangement of anything, and it always sounds fine because it's based on contrapuntal musical facts, which are eternal and imperishable, and really not so much. It's pretty much independent of the medium for which Bach wrote it in some respects. But there's no question that the Goldberg Variations can sound very, very different, whether it's played on the piano or the harpsichord. Bach, of course, never heard it on the piano, or at least the modern piano. He might have heard it on some strange, primitive simulacrum of what became the piano. But he wrote it for the harpsichord. He designated variations for one keyboard or two keyboards. It was a harpsichord with multiple stops, with multiple keyboards. It was obviously an instrument with some capacity for color. And playing the thing on the harpsichord, it really sounds like a very, very different work, I think. And in order to get the most juice out of this particular, squeezing the most juice out of this particular orange, if you want to call it that way, it's wonderful to hear both. So I have no strong opinion about, what is better. I only care about what performance is better. If there's a great performance, okay, doesn't make any difference to me. The key when it comes to harpsichord performances of anything is that you have to have a beautiful harpsichord. A beautiful instrument. They look beautiful. In this case, I have Trevor Pinnock, yes, on Archiv. Now, here it is. Oh, it's a beautiful harpsichord. They were so nicely decorated and gorgeous to play. It would have been beautiful to sit at these things and just sort of look at the artwork, underneath the hood there. The problem is that so many harpsichords sound horrible. Really either thin and clattery, or they're full of mechanical noises, or they don't have any capacity to sing, because a harpsichord, as you know, really has an issue with legato and with creating a sustained tone, because they're not sustained. They're made out of quills that pluck the string, so it just goes boing, 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 boing. And for that reason, you really need to have an instrument that has some sort of built-in attractiveness to its tone. Some people would define that as something that sounds more like a piano. I don't. I think a harpsichord has a marvelous, good-sounding ones, as a marvelous contraption all on its own, and works beautifully well. Then once you've got a harpsichord that has a beautiful tone, you need a harpsichordist who knows how to play the harpsichord with the beautiful tone. One of the things that we cannot do, and it's really an interesting aesthetic question, is we cannot approach performance on the harpsichord without the ideal of performance on the piano in our ears. We're just built that way because we know what pianos sound like. And so we know right away that the harpsichord is lacking certain things that the piano has. And I think there's a tendency for certain performers to want to make up what, the piano can't do by doing things on the harpsichord. And those things take two forms. Number one is ornamentation. Ornamentation is there supposedly to render the melody more expressive. But there is a tendency to get a little carried away with it, I think, and to fill in the gaps, to make sure that there's always something going on, so that you don't miss that lack of long singing line, that lack of sustaining power. And this can be extremely fatiguing to the ear. Bach wrote out most of his ornaments. He really did. He was known for that. He was criticized for that, for not leaving enough for the performer to add to the music, because he was quite concerned that everything should be executed correctly. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing for us, because it means that you don't have to do much. You can do a little. You can be discreet. You can ornament repeats, for example, in the Goldberg Variations, to create some extra variety when you hear something the second time around. I mean, that's all right. But otherwise, you don't need to doodle too much on the music. That's the first thing. The second thing that a lot of harpsichordists do is they decide to be expressive by varying tempos. And this can become really seasick and extreme. It can break the back of the melodic phrase, because it's always sort of, pulling and pushing and smushing and swooshing and whatnot. And it's very, very unpleasant. People think that that's expressive. I don't find that expressive. I just find it mannered or annoying. And I doubt very, very much that keyboard players back in the day resorted to that kind of affect in an excessive way, in order to try and compensate for an expressiveness that they really had no idea was coming, because they didn't know what a piano was going to sound like. They saw or heard everything in terms of the sound of the harpsichord, or maybe the clavichord if they were in private, which of course is a touch sensitive but still very quiet, generally very quiet instrument. So the bottom line is that most of what you need in this music is built into it. You need a lovely instrument, and you need an intelligent harpsichordist, a virtuosic harpsichordist, obviously, because the thing is absolutely thrillingly, excitingly virtuosic. It really helps to have two well differentiated keyboards, especially when you're doing some of the canons, so that you can hear the contrapuntal interplay of the voices, which is one of the great delights of the work. And Trevor Pinnock has all of those qualities. He really does. I have to confess, I was a piano person for the Goldberg Variations before I heard this recording, and it converted me instantly to the harpsichord possibility, because it was so fresh and direct and intelligent. He doesn't take every single repeat. He's very, very smart when it handles repeat, like the big adagio, the 25th variation. He does not take the repeats. So it's 4 and a bit minutes long instead of 8 and a bit minutes long. I think that's very smart, particularly as you're getting to the end of the work, when the variations are coming sort of thick and fast, the last cluster of them, which are very virtuosic and brilliant. And it's marvelous to just add one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, to create a big climax in the way the variations are grouped. It's a wonderfully smart performance, beautifully recorded on a lovely instrument, which makes it one of the greatest recordings ever, hands down. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.